am the chosen one. Be brave, Professor. Be brave like my mother.
How do you feel?
Excellent. Really excellent.
Hey everyone, welcome to Hogwarts, a podcast. Hey everyone, welcome to another episode of Hogwarts, a podcast. We are covering Chapter 24, Sectumsempra. Elizabeth is back with us.
Hello.
And this is an absolutely packed chapter. It's pretty much got everything you would want in a chapter. It's got emotional punches. It's got action. It's literally everything in a chapter. But before we get there, I have a couple of shout-outs that I want to get to. And the first one is Riri, who left a comment on Spotify on our episode Chapter 13, The Secret Riddle from Half-Blood Prince, so fairly recently. And this is a long comment, so bear with me. Riri says, I feel like Dumbledore should have kept a closer eye on Tom from the beginning. Like he should have taken Tom to Diagon Alley himself, rather than letting Tom go alone. I think throughout Tom's schooling, Dumbledore should have talked to him, checked on him, had private conversations with him to try and deter Tom from becoming a villain. Or could have seen that Tom was beyond help and kicked him out or erased his memory, etc.
I remember we had a big debate about that.
We did.
And you yelled at me because I kind of took both sides of the debate.
Yes. I personally fully agree with Riri that he should have kept a much closer eye on Tom, given the warning signs that he saw when he first met him.
Yeah. I like the following through and catching up with him and consistently checking in on him, because I do agree that maybe that could have deterred him from going to the dark side.
I get that, but, Dumbledore is one half of the equation. Tom Riddle is the other.
Yeah.
And he did not seem very willing to have Albus, follow him around the entire time or check in on him. He didn't seem particularly thrilled about that idea. That's why he didn't go with him. He offered to go with him to Diagon Alley. And he's like, no.
Which, honestly, is fairly accurate. There are some students where, I could give them as much support as they want, but if they don't want to listen to it, they're not going to take any of it.
Can we also just take a step back and realize that an 11-year-old child told an adult that I'm going to go shopping in the major thoroughfare.
I would not have had the guts.
It's not even about guts, just to have the, idea that you even could.
Yeah.
Me at 11, I'm like, my mom has to take me everywhere.
Right. No.
So
me at 35, I still wouldn't mind that.
So the idea of this 11-year-old child being like, no, I will go to this major marketplace in the wizarding world.
Where I've never been before.
I've never seen the shops before. I don't even know how to get in, necessarily.
Or, what the money really... I guess he kind of told them about the money, but even still, one time, you're going to forget about it.
It's a lot for an 11-year-old to take on upon themselves.
Yeah.
So, let's just take that into... But yeah, no, I agree with Riri. I think Dumbledore should have probably kept closer tabs on Tom throughout his schooling. Not to say that he didn't try. I'm sure he tried. But thank you, Riri, for the comment. We really appreciate that. The second comment is from our frequent contributor, AV, who left a comment on Chapter 22, After the Burial. So very, very recent episode.
I love that AV is keeping up on our episodes.
We very much appreciate it. AV says, I never saw the movie, but in the book, I would rate this chapter as in the top 10 chapters. I think, at least.
Yeah. Yeah, it's a really cool chapter.
After the Burial is a very cool chapter. I know Jen was on that episode, and she quite agrees. She loves that chapter. It's we had discussed on the episode how much of a whiplash the chapter is, because it's starting off all happy, and then you get the down note of the Montgomery sisters and their brother, who was attacked by the werewolf, and then you get some happier moments with a drunk Hagrid and Slughorn, and then Harry takes it to a whole other level by intimately describing the death of his parents.
Yeah.
So, it also is an all-over-the-place kind of chapter.
I just remember reading it the first time and thinking how cool it was to see how she wrote luck. you know, because I feel like
it's almost a personification of luck.
Yeah, and seeing the various ways things seemed to work out for him. Like, I know you guys talked about, like, the door being left open or not seeing Filch anywhere or anything like that. And some of the luck seems to even come into this chapter. So it's a cool way of seeing luck personified, I guess.
Yeah, and as cool as that chapter was, and after the burial, I think this chapter might be my favorite in this book, or at least my top 5. When I was reading this chapter, Sectumsempra, I was reminded of my first read and how much I did enjoy it. And we'll get to certain parts of that as we go. There's a lot that happens here. We have Harry, Ron, and Hermione reuniting after all of this funeral and Felix Felicis and all of that kind of stuff happened. We get a lot of Quidditch. Probably didn't think we had any more Quidditch left in the tank for this book, but we do. So we get some more Quidditch, and then we get a scene with Harry and Draco a little later in this chapter, and we also get a Snape appearance in this chapter. So it is packed. So we will start off with the Harry, Ron, and Hermione reuniting, and as per usual, they do their big information dump during a class.
During Charms
class, which I just feel like is such an insult to Flitwick and his brilliant teaching.
I'll give them that at least they're practicing the spell. They're supposed to be turning vinegar into wine, which is an interesting charm in general. If you're practicing and everyone's practicing, they're getting loud. It's a perfect place to have a conversation.
I have so many questions about this, but first we'll get to how successful was the trio in their attempt to turn vinegar into wine, and Hermione was quite successful, per usual. Harry turned it to ice, which I guess is a good failure?
I guess.
Frozen water. I mean,
it's not wine, but it's something.
But you know what he didn't do? He didn't pull a Ron and explode the whole thing completely and send your professor ducking under a table for shelter.
How often do you think Flitwick has to duck?
How many times do you think the professors at Hogwarts have to duck under something?
It's like, I don't know. That's why they're masters at their craft, that they're able to duck, dodge, and what was the other D?
Duck, dodge, dip, dive, and dodge.
All of the spells, the misused spells and transfiguration and potion mistakes that these kids make.
I would imagine they're used to being very quick with their reflexes on protecting themselves. I would imagine it'd be hard if you're doing something that even you are like, there is no way a kid can blow something up with this particular spell or this potion or whatever have you, and then it happens anyway.
If I were Flitwick, I would have like a permanent shield charm on me all day, every day.
Well, you'd be able to do that at the very least. Now, I do want to get to, before we move on, this turning vinegar to wine thing. Mm-hmm. I know you can't create food or drink, right?
Yes.
But if you can take something that is essentially undrinkable, like no one's drinking vinegar straight.
No, but vinegar is part of the winemaking process.
So you think it's a small changing of the substance?
Kind of.
So you can't make this into like beer, or you can't make this into like Coca-Cola, or you can't make it into some other beverage that would be more drinkable.
Yeah, I guess that'd be the loophole. Because I had the exact same thought of like, this is weird magic. They're turning it into something that they can digest. I mean, I guess like people could drink like apple vinegar if they wanted to. But I mean, like, you know me, I don't drink alcohol. But I did look up, like, vinegar is part of the winemaking process. So I guess, yeah, if it's part of it, then...
So would you be able to take, like, dirty water or something like that? And just magically... Would you magically filter
I was thinking
it?
more like, could you take, like, a box of sugar and turn it into a cake? You know, because, like, sugar would be part of the actual dessert. Is it close enough? Because it's partially food and it's an ingredient in the final product, or does that not count because it's too far away?
Or is that too complex of a thing? Would you have to make sugar into like a candy bar, not like a cake?
Maybe.
Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
I don't know. There's some questions that I have with this particular charm and
it's an
how the rules
interesting magic,
work.
though. So yeah.
Anyway, amongst all of this, they put the Muffliato charm on their little conversation, and Ron and Hermione are, Harry describes, satisfyingly impressed with his tale of how he extracted the memory from Slughorn.
Yeah. Thank you, Felix.
Yeah. Ron says it's not the only thing that Felix might have helped out on, because Harry slipping out unnoticed of the common room led to a large argument between Ron and Lavender as Ron emerged from the boys' dormitory with Hermione. And that argument led to them splitting up.
Love just doesn't last.
And Lavender does not seem pleased about the whole thing. She seems quite broken up about it. Which doesn't help that Ron is also next to Hermione like 24/7.
Yeah. I mean, he was like touching her shoulder to brush the snow that he was accidentally making.
Which I genuinely think is an innocent gesture.
Oh,
I don't
100%.
think there's like anything.
But if you're emotionally charged and you see the girl that you are jealous of next to the guy who's your ex-boyfriend as of yesterday, you'd probably have an emotional reaction to that.
Well, you can't really escape. You're in a castle.
Yeah. And you have classes with them every class.
It's a large castle, but yeah.
Yeah.
And then Hermione lets everybody know that that wasn't the only relationship to have issues while Harry was under the influence. Ginny split up with Dean.
Now, when you say lets everybody know, we know she's really aiming this information towards one specific person.
She's targeting Harry, and Harry is very adept at hiding his emotional glee. Because he says, and this is maybe one of the best individual lines of the entire series, because it is just a weird line. But he says his insides were dancing the conga.
Do your insides ever dance the conga?
It's a weird line because Harry is not under the influence here. So it's not like he's particularly over hyperbolic, per se. But I just don't see Harry Potter, the Harry Potter that we've come to know over these 5.5 years now, saying dancing the conga. Like, I don't see that phrase coming out of Harry Potter. But that's just me.
That just makes me also think about the fact that these wizards are aware of the conga, the song.
This seems to me like, well, Harry would be, because he's from the Muggle world.
Yeah.
But, like, I see this line coming more from, like, Ernie Macmillan or, like, Seamus, maybe. Like, one of those types of characters.
Yeah.
Maybe even the twins. I'd be okay with the twins.
The twins would use it sarcastically.
Yeah.
Ernie would use it in a way to sound impressive.
Arthur would use it incorrectly, but I would still love it.
Yeah.
He'd try to be hip with the Muggle lingo and miss. Similarly to how we are trying to be hip with...
You are trying to be hip. I am staying away from that.
Don't hate that I have all of the Riz, okay? I'm so sorry. I'm so sorry to all of the listeners. Anyway.
It's a weird line, but he's excited.
We now get a series of paragraphs of Harry having this internal struggle with himself over Ginny. What do? I like her, but I can't like her because I'm friends with Ron, but maybe I'm friends with Ron, so this would be okay. But I'm friends with Ron. This can't be okay. And he goes back and forth for like literally several paragraphs. And then he does come to an interesting realization of, if I'm going to act on this, I have to act soon, because the one thing that Ron and I agree with is she is too popular for her own good.
I have two thoughts about it. First, I like that he made the comment, too, about considering asking Hermione for help, but the idea of her being way too smug in helping was just like, nah, I can't do that.
I get that.
Yeah.
I feel that vibe.
Yeah. But I also I really feel like this is a sign of maturity on his part. Like, I feel like if he were younger, he kind of would have acted more impulsively and just gone for it. And I don't think that would have gone over well with Ron, who would also have been less mature in that age. I feel like him weighing, will this wreck my friendship, which is it's so valuable to me. I could not be without Ron. We've seen how he is when Ron isn't in the picture. To really have that weigh against a crush, I mean, that's hard to do, but I think it's really mature of him to consider it.
He's so torn up about this that he, once again, considers taking more of the Felix Felicis potion.
Yeah, which is dumb.
I mean, yes. Yes, it is. However, again, I've said it before on the podcast, in his situation, and look, Ginny is a talented, outgoing,
attractive,
intelligent girl who she knows, and again, he just went over all of the other complications going on with this, so it can be overwhelming for him to be like, can I put myself out there?
Yeah.
That's a lot for especially a kid. It's a lot for me as an adult, so it's a lot.
Well, that
I get
and
it,
too,
but
knowing Ron's reaction when like Dean was dating her. Like, I mean, who was the kid that she dated prior to that?
Michael Corner.
Yeah, like Michael Corner was like, whatever, he's a loser. Where'd that come from? But Dean is their age. Harry is in their age group as well, and more so than Dean is closer to Ginny. So it could be seen as a betrayal of trust if Ron were to take it that way.
It's a tricky situation.
Mm-hmm.
But the only thing that can drive the thought of Ginny out of his mind is the return of Katie Bell. They return to the Gryffindor common room, and they see a huddle of 7th years surrounding Katie, and they immediately rush over to her. And to Harry, this means a couple of things. One, it means, I finally have a member of my Quidditch team back. We finally have like a cohesive team now.
Yeah, Dean doesn't have to be on it anymore.
Dean doesn't have to be on it. Ron is healthy, so he doesn't have to have McLagan. This is great. But he also wants information on who possibly cursed her. Mm-hmm. And unfortunately, it's the one thing she can't give him.
She remembers definitely entering the woman's bathroom, which Harry takes as like, clearly Crabbe or Goyle were in disguise using the Polyjuice potion that Malfoy stole. So clearly we can still tie it back to Malfoy, but Hermione's like, no.
Well, even if it wasn't Crabbe or Goyle, that option is still on the table of Polyjuice potion being used. Mm-hmm. Which, can we just take a second that we have the idea of Polyjuice potion being used and the idea of Felix being used again in this chapter when it was mentioned way, way, way long ago. And this is both stemming from the first potions class.
Yeah.
Where both potions were up for grabs. Interesting. Just a little...
Also interesting that the potions, like, don't go bad.
I imagine you'd have to store them well, but yeah. And clearly Harry stores them quite well in his socks, but we'll get to that later.
Can I just say, though, I feel so bad for Katie right now. Like, not only is she getting all this attention from people, just everyone wanting to know what happened, how is she, and all that stuff, she has so much work to catch up on. And I know that's like me in teacher mode thinking about that, but she has an entire semester's worth of lessons. She's in her 7th year. And I feel like I've had students before who've had injuries that took them out of class for weeks on end. I mean, I've even had one who was in a similar situation of an entire semester's worth. And having
Cursed by a necklace? Wow.
Cursed by a necklace, yeah.
Wow.
Something else, but
impressive.
But trying to work with them to catch them up, it is a long process. But I was thinking about their subjects like charms and transfiguration. Those require mastery and practice of the actual spells. And potions is pretty close up there. Like, you have to know the theories behind when to stew the certain plants or whatever. Defense against the dark arts, if they're doing defensive types of spells, again, that's like, you need the practice.
You have Snape now as a teacher.
True.
Who's not as easy as maybe some of our previous teachers.
True, but in general, just like they can't just give them the spark notes of the subject and be like, oh yeah, you'll be fine. Like she might be taking her newts later and she has such huge gaps in her education right now that are really hard to make up.
Yeah, I don't know if she plans on going into the summer, like taking some extra lessons, catching up over the summer, and then taking those newts later. I don't know how standardized of a standardized exam it is.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
So, like, I don't know how flexible they are. I'm sure McGonagall and Dumbledore would be understanding of her situation and give her a break if there was a break to give. I just don't know if there's a break to give.
I would assume the newts are ministry grade tests.
Right.
And you're out in the real world or whatever, but if you would like that newt qualification, you got to come back for it, which is really hard
or you
to
just
do.
sit for the exam.
Just for that. I could see doing summer school stuff, but I get the sense that a lot of these professors truly believe in their subjects, as they should, and everything that they want Katie to master to be successful in the real world takes time, and they don't have much of it right now, so I feel bad for her.
Harry's not thinking so much about Katie's academic schedule.
No, not so much.
After speaking with her, he again goes back to thoughts of Felix Felicis, but this time it's how to get into the room of requirement to have success with Draco. And Hermione stunningly disapproves of that idea. And Ron suggests making more. However, Harry actually looks it up and he's like, well, this is a very really complicated potion to make, number one. Number two, it takes 6 months to actually brew.
Which, side note, now that you mention that, I just had the thought, Slughorn didn't have 6 months to brew the potion before school started.
Correct.
So he would have had to
or
already...
Polyjuice, for that matter.
Yeah, so he would have already either had to have been working on this potion or asked... Or maybe Snape started it thinking that was going to be the start of the lesson, but it doesn't really strike me as a Snape kind of lesson.
No, it's definitely not a Snape lesson.
But it was like in cauldrons, like simmering there. I don't know if you can just buy it and dump it in a potion and light a fire and be like, this is good.
I would imagine all of those potions, since they're being used for post-OWL classes, are fairly difficult to brew. We know Polyjuice Potion is, and obviously we just got the info on Felix.
Yeah, I said it takes like 6 months for it to stew.
They could have had something in stock for Polyjuice. Like, that could be a Snape thing that he has ready to go. But for the vial of Felix, I mean, he could have purchased that somewhere.
Yeah, but I got the sense that it's like he had a whole cauldron worth.
Or personal stock.
Maybe. And just like bottled up a little vial and was like, here you go, here's your prize.
Or it could have all just been personal stock. We do know he was on the run for a while, so Polyjuice and Felix would be good for avoiding Death Eaters for extended periods of time.
Yeah.
The love potion, probably not so much. But you never know. You could slip one of them a love potion. That could get you out of the situation, too. So, I don't know.
It's an interesting plot hole.
Yeah. I mean, you could find some ways around it, but yeah.
Yeah.
Harry does start focusing on this Quidditch match that he gets Katie Bell back for. The match is Gryffindor versus Ravenclaw, and it's the last match of the year, and everything is on the line. You have the Quidditch Championship on the line in this matchup. So, here's the breakdown for all of you Quidditch fanatics out there. If Gryffindor wins this championship by 300 or more points, Gryffindor wins the championship. If Ravenclaw loses by less than 300 points, Ravenclaw then wins the championship. If Gryffindor loses by 100 points, Hufflepuff takes third place. If Gryffindor loses by more than 100 points, they finish last of the houses for the first time in 2 centuries.
No pressure.
And this is Harry's first time being captain.
Oh.
He's looking forward to this matchup quite a lot.
And he seems to be linking winning the match with success with asking out Ginny. Because he's like, if we win, everyone will be euphoric. she'll be so excited, and Ron will be so excited that he'll be willing to accept us, and we'll be happily ever after, and I won't even need to use Felix. It'll be great.
It's a fair thought. Mm-hmm. It's a fair thought. Before we move on to really the heart of this chapter, I do just want to throw out, we get a random mention of Professor Vector and arithmancy class. Harry mentions that Hermione has some question for her on some test because she might have made a minor mistake. Professor Vector and arithmancy.
Honestly, I feel like this is just their way of handling anxiety. Like, Hermione, when she's anxious, she bothers professors about potential mistakes that she made on her homework or her exam that she's freaking out about, and the professor's like, you got over 100%. Like, I don't know what to tell you. Ron is vomiting, and then Harry does what Harry does. He stalks Malfoy. It's just ways to process anxiety.
So he tries to stalk Draco. Mm-hmm. He attempts to stalk Draco and see where he's at in the castle, and he notices that he's one floor below in a bathroom, accompanied by Moaning Myrtle.
What an odd duo.
It is an odd duo. So he decides to go investigate, as Harry does, and he comes up on the bathroom and discovers Draco has his head bent over the sink, clutching the sides of the sink, shaking, and crying. Like, actually crying. And he's taken aback by this a little bit.
Well, he also overhears him saying things like, unless it won't work, and he has to do it soon, but if he doesn't do it soon, he'll kill him, whoever he is, but he can't do it. And Moaning Myrtle's just like, let me help you. Tell me what I can do. Being a fairly supportive ghost friend, I guess.
That's a different version of GF. You're welcome.
I was not expecting that.
Yeah. So Draco is obviously very emotionally distraught, and you can sense he feels a lot of pressure coming upon him, obviously, as we're getting closer and closer to the end of the year. And then he spots Harry in the mirror. And then chaos.
Yeah.
Because Draco is really quick drawing his wand. Harry's also very quick drawing his wand. And we get hexes and curses destroying this bathroom.
I mean, if you want to do the whole, who shot first, Han or Greedo, Malfoy did technically hex Harry first, but he missed. Harry used Levi Corpus, but Malfoy blocked it.
To be fair here, Malfoy is having a personal moment. He's emotionally
You're not expecting your
unstable at the moment.
Your least favorite person to pop up and spy on you.
And he got caught by surprise as he's silent behind him staring at him.
Yeah.
So, I mean, I don't think Malfoy's reaction is all that bad. Granted, I don't know which hex he used.
But then, of course, it does get worse. I mean, Harry tries the leg locker curse on him, but instead it smashes up a cistern, so water's sprouting all over the place. Malfoy tried to use Crucio. Didn't finish it, though, because Harry used Sectumsempra.
Yeah. When Harry uses Sectumsempra, the result of which is blood spurting from Malfoy's face and chest, falls back into the water, because, all the pipes are burst. So he falls back into the water, his wand falls from his hand, and Harry's just like, oh no.
Yeah.
I didn't intend for that to be the result of my spell.
And Myrtle is screaming murder in the bathroom, which makes it, of course, even more dramatic than it already is.
Honestly, she's
not
that's
wrong.
A
it
very
looks like
jarring
murder.
image.
Yeah. I mean, if it's enough to make him fall over and blood is gushing out from everywhere, he could easily die.
Yeah. So Harry is obviously very horrified by what he's done, and before he can really do anything about it, because he's a little bit he's a little bit in shock of everything that's just happened. Snape bursts into the room, which
I have a question about, but we'll get to it.
It's really great timing by Snape. Really. And he starts performing an incantation over Malfoy, which Harry notes is almost song-like in nature. Mm-hmm. And he does it 3 times over each cut and each wound, and they start stitching themselves together.
Yeah, and then he said if Malfoy goes to the hospital wing, take some Dittany, possibly he can avoid scarring, and then he'd, like, be good to go. Because it sounds like there's just cuts, deep cuts everywhere.
Yeah.
Imagine if Lucius, like...
This is a little bit more than the scratch from the hippogriff.
Yeah, or the bite from the flobber worm. Like, come on. My question, do you think Snape was so close by because he was keeping an eye on Malfoy?
Possibly. Yeah. He could have also figured out that he's trying to use the Room of Requirement. So he's maybe on his way to the Room of Requirement or by the Room of Requirement. So he just was a quick couple of steps away.
Maybe.
But, yeah.
Lucky, though.
Very lucky for Draco. Snape ends up escorting Draco to the hospital wing and instructs Harry to wait there for 10 minutes, which Harry obediently does for, like, the first time ever. He's like, you know what? I'm not going to argue this. I'm not going to argue with Snape.
He knows he's right to be punished. He knows he did wrong.
He knows he messed up in a big way.
Yeah.
Big way. Snape does return after the 10 minutes, tells Myrtle to leave, which Myrtle expediently, like, dives into a U-bend. And the first thing I think he says to Harry is, I have underestimated you. Mm-hmm. I didn't know that you were capable of such dark magic.
Right.
And I think A, that's genuine from Severus. Mm-hmm. B, yes, it is needling a little bit. It's a little bit of, kind of poking. Mm-hmm. But I think he is a little bit like, I didn't know you had that in you. Snape tries to figure out where Harry possibly could have learned this curse. And Harry lies and lies and lies, and Snape knows and knows and knows.
Is that I read it in a library book?
And Harry knows full well, like, I have never been able to block Legilimens. I've never been able to do it. Snape's very good at it.
Yeah.
This is a problem. And he's, like, trying to be calm, and he's trying to, like, discard everything in his mind, but the only thing he can ever think of is the advanced potion-making book.
Well, it's like how they say, like, don't think of an elephant. The only thing you're going to think of is an elephant.
Yeah. So Snape ends up saying, go get your school bag, go get every single one of your school books.
Mm-hmm. And then come back.
And then bring them right back to me.
Which I think is a rookie mistake.
How would you have done this differently if you were Snape?
Gone with him.
Okay, here's my... I fully understand why you say that, but here's my only counter to that. When have you ever seen a professor in a common room and it wasn't their head of house? Ever. And even then, how many times do you see McGonagall in the Gryffindor common room? I'm just saying... There might be some rule in place where he can't go into the Gryffindor common room.
I feel like as a safety feature, which I know Hogwarts isn't always the most safe, but I feel like as a safety feature, the teachers should all be able to get into all rooms in the school. Because if there are kids you want to save them.
You're putting safety measures in at Hogwarts School of Witchcraft and Wizardry.
That's what I'm saying.
Come on. There are none. You know this.
There are some, but no, I just know, like, because of what happened is exactly what any teacher would know to have happened.
I'm not saying you're wrong and that he should have gone with. Mm-hmm. He should have. You're right.
Mm-hmm. I mean, he could have, like, gone up to the Gryffindor common room and been like, okay, Potter, open the door, and then go inside. It's not like he needed to know the password.
I just feel like the only reason he didn't... This is Snape, of all people, too, on top of it. Mm-hmm. Like, he wants to put Harry out, right? Mm-hmm. There has to be a reason he didn't. And I feel like...
That didn't follow him?
Yeah, go with them, specifically. We're getting into details about potential Hogwarts rules that may or may not exist, but...
Maybe we should come back to this in the spoilers. But I just think that it was a rookie mistake. If you ever, like, for example, if I'm going to send a kid down to the office, I'm going to call the office to make sure that the kid ends up down there. Because there have been times where kids will just, like, leave school or go to another teacher's room and hang out there or just hang in the bathroom.
That's fine, too.
Like, if they know they're in trouble, they're going to do whatever they can to try to avoid that trouble.
This is a different school. This is a boarding school.
Still.
You live with these
professors.
professors.
They're teenagers. They know if they're in trouble, they want to get out of it.
Yeah, they also know that McGonagall means business, that Snape means business. They're not playing with those two.
Well, as we see in the chapter, Harry does do what he can to get out of it. So that's what I'm saying. Teenagers will lie if they need to in order to cover their own butts.
He also stayed in the bathroom, too.
He stayed in the bathroom, sure, but the minute Snape's like, go get all your school books, he runs into Ron and is like, give me your potions book immediately. Like, we got to switch them. Like,
sure.
I need it. Because teenagers will do what they can to get out of trouble.
All I'm saying is, if Snape really wanted to, like, pin this down, why wouldn't he have? There had to be some reason to why he wouldn't have gone with him.
Because it was a rookie mistake.
He's not a rookie.
I know, but you can still make rookie
Elizabeth,
mistakes.
He's been teaching longer than you have.
I know, and I still make rookie mistakes sometimes.
You bury teachers in this series. I don't understand why.
Okay, this is going to be my 13th year of teaching this next school year. When Snape's been teaching, what, like 18 years at this point? That's not that much more than me. And I still make rookie mistakes sometimes. Like, I can't tell you how many times I have to make copies in the morning because I forgot to do it the night before. There
must be some instance where he can't go there. If there's a kid, if let's say if Harry used this spell on a fellow Gryffindor, let's say he used it on McLaggen. He used it on McLaggen in the Gryffindor common room. Snape is clearly well suited to fix this spell.
I think if someone got McGonagall, she would get Snape to come in and...
Okay, but now you're getting McGonagall to bring Snape in.
Well, because I think the kids would call McGonagall over Snape.
Yes. And then McGonagall would be like, no. Or they would potentially move the kid, but...
I don't know if they'd move him. He'd be losing too much blood.
You shouldn't move the kid. But that's also a potential life emergency. Like, a kid might die. That's an emergent situation. The only time we've seen McGonagall in the common room was when Harry was flipping out.
Or when Sirius Black, suspected murderer, an accused murderer, got into the common room. She's gone in sometimes too to yell at them for partying too long after Quidditch.
And that's only their head of house.
Yeah.
You're telling me the head of Slytherin is going to walk into the Gryffindor common room?
To be fair, for all we know...
To discipline a Gryffindor?
For all we know, Flitwick is hanging out in the Hufflepuff common room, like, on a daily basis. But in general, I just think it was a mistake to not go with, because he obviously switches out his book with Ron, and then immediately goes up to the room requirement to hide that book, because he does not want to be caught with it.
And I'm just saying, Snape wants nothing more than to nail Harry. And he didn't.
We'll come back to this.
Okay. Anyway, Harry ends up going back to the Gryffindor common room to get the book that Snape wants, as well as all of the others. And he's having this thought of, this book betrayed me. Like, he has this thought of betrayal from this book.
Well, he saw it as a friend.
He does end up explaining that he needs the book. Ron willingly gives it very quickly.
Also, let's note the fact that Harry is wet and covered in blood. So Ron's like, what happened? He's like, I can't talk right now. Like, just give it to me. Let's go.
He ends up going by the room of requirement on his way back to the bathroom, which we noted is very, very close. And he says the words, doesn't say the words, he thinks the words, I need a place to hide my book. As he tries to get into the room of requirement. It opens for him. And he is greeted by a massive cathedral-like room filled with objects of all different kinds.
This is my favorite version of the room requirement. I'm so excited to be here for this moment. I love it so much. I mean, like you said, it's the size of a large cathedral. He said it almost seems like a city with towering walls built by objects hidden by generations of Hogwarts inhabitants. And there are like thousands of books, there's broken furniture, there's congealed potions. He said there's like fanged frisbees still kind of hanging up in the air a little bit. There's jewels, there's cloaks, there's dragon eggshells, rusting swords, there's a blood-stained axe, there's the vanishing cabinet, there's a stuffed troll, there's a skeleton of a creature with 5 legs, bust of Warlock.
Lots of things. There's
Dusty
lots of
wig,
things.
tarnished tiara. There's so much stuff, and all I want to do in life is to go into this room and just organize it.
It's weird.
I just want to go through all the things
very
and
weird.
see what there are. I mean, like, just imagine the books alone. Like, I want to explore them and see what kind of books people were hiding, whether it was that they were dark magic or they just, like, graffitied on them or whatever. I just want to see what people felt the need to hide and why. It just strikes that curiosity
it's
in me.
just a throwaway closet. Like, some of these things are broken and, like, they're just discarded.
Yeah, but it's like a junk drawer. You can find all sorts of fun things in a junk drawer that you forgot about.
So anyway, he navigates all of the alleyways that have formed in this cathedral-like room, and he finds a acid-damaged cupboard. Mm-hmm. And he decides, this is a good place to potentially hide my actual copy of Advanced Potion Making. So he puts the book inside the cupboard, and he marks it with a chipped bust of an ugly warlock, and then added a wig and a tiara for added flair so he could recognize the place.
It does make me funny. It does strike me as funny that he felt the need to go in further into the room to hide the book, whereas he could have just, like, dropped it right by the doorway and it wouldn't really matter because who knows about this room? Who knows about this specific version of the room? But it is a fun way to remember where you hid it.
If it were me and I was trying to hide something that I wanted to go back and get later, which he clearly does, you'd have to mark it some way with some sort of identifying.
Or I'm just thinking, quick, open the door. It's right there. Take it, grab it.
No, that's
go
at
back
risk
out.
because you don't know. You don't know how many people know about this room. You don't know how many people utilize the room. Leaving it out in the open is probably not the best idea. You want to put it somewhere.
I guess, but yeah.
But anyway.
There's just a lot of stuff in this room. It's fascinating.
So he brings Ron's copy of Advanced Potion Making to Snape, and Snape learns that Harry's nickname is now Runel Wazlib.
Okay, Snape would make a fantastic lawyer. You know, he, like, sets him up so perfectly. He's like, you swear this is the copy of the book that you purchased this year. Yes. You've used this all year. Oh, absolutely. This is the copy you bring to potions every day. 100%. So why is this name written on the inside? So good.
Harry is usually very good with a quick thought. However, this is one of his lamest attempts at a lie. And he's like, oh, yeah, it's my nickname. It's what my friends call me. And Snape is like, I understand what a nickname is. Thank you.
He's also just like, this is the kind of gaslighting students do that drives me up a wall. Because it's like, how big of an idiot do you think I am? Obviously, you're lying. Like, he teaches Ron Weasley. He's probably had homework turned in by Ron that used that quill without Ron realizing it was misspelling words and having Hermione fix it. So he's probably seen this version of his name on a paper before and being like, you're so stupid.
Yeah. Well, Harry gets detention every Saturday at 10 a.m. till the end of term, which Harry later estimates is probably a dozen or so detentions.
Which means a really big thing. He's not coming to Quidditch.
It costs Harry his Quidditch Championship. He will miss Gryffindor versus Ravenclaw.
Honestly, though, in terms of punishments, he's...
Light. He got away with it.
He's so lucky he wasn't expelled or sued.
Or sent to Azkaban.
Yeah.
Like, this is an assault.
Yes.
Like, this is an actual assault.
On a, not an adult, on a underage child.
No, this is you could make a really valid argument that this is attempted murder.
Like, this is what he should have been brought in to the Ministry of Magic for with the Wizard Gamut, as opposed to, like, oh, you used a Patronus charm on Dementors. Like, this is a trial kind of thing. Yeah.
We are agreed on that. However, he's at Hogwarts, where crazy things happen all the time, and children get maimed apparently on the regular. So it's just another day. So ultimately, Harry ends up telling the trio and Ginny what happened. And Myrtle ends up spreading the story via bathroom by bathroom. McGonagall ends up hearing it from Snape, because Snape spread it through the teacher's lounge.
Right.
McGonagall then has a 15-minute conversation with Harry that is not a pleasant one, and ultimately says what we just said: you really should be expelled for this.
Yeah.
Like,
you're so
it's a
lucky.
miracle that you're not.
Yeah.
And I would even consider doing it. So
Yeah.
you escaped. Ginny will have to replace him as Seeker on the Quidditch team, and then Dean will have to rejoin the team to replace Ginny as Chaser. So things suddenly not going Harry's way in a very aggressive fashion.
Well, now he's thinking like, oh no, if we win, they're going to be excited. They're going to get back together again, and they'll be happily ever after, and I'll have missed my chance because I'll be stuck in detention for my own stupid actions.
Yep. And Hermione is reminding him of every stupid action he has taken, and she is listing them out. And just blistering him with critiques. And then Ginny says, hey, give it a rest. Like, quit it.
I mean, she did make the point Malfoy tried to use an unforgivable curse. That is an Azkaban-worthy...
Yeah, would you rather have Harry be tortured?
Yeah, like...
Which is a good comeback, but Hermione's not exactly wrong here. Harry messed up in a monumental way. Mm-hmm. And let's remember, Draco at that point in time was also defending himself from Harry's repeated curses, too. It's not like Harry was Mr. Innocent in this whole thing.
Exactly.
So Harry deserves quite a lot of the blame. But yeah, it is interesting to have Ginny kind of stick up for him. And
it did make Harry happier about the situation, which is such a silly little thing.
Well, it also shows that Ginny has to care for him, because if Dean did this, or if somebody else did this and cost the Quidditch team a shot at this title, she cares about that. She wants that. For her to stick up for him like that, it does mean something. So there is that. Now, Harry's detention.
It's fun.
Well, okay, I wouldn't say fun. It's not the worst it could be, though. I will say that. I would, if for what Harry did, if I were to do what Harry did and I got this detention, I'd be fine.
Yeah.
Like, I wouldn't say a word about it.
No.
Harry's detention consists of copying or remaking cards that have crimes and punishments of former students that Filch has collected over the years.
I can just imagine so many filing cabinets full of them.
Yep. And he also has to organize them in alphabetical order. Also, he can't use magic, which I think is a given, but yeah.
The fun aspect, though, I think, is that Snape did pull the whole, you're going to start with the detention cards for 2 people that you recognize.
Okay, I have a possibly controversial take on this. I know Harry views it as needling and Snape picking on Harry.
I'm sure Snape sees it as him picking on Harry. Look at all the misdeeds of your father and his best friend.
So honestly, I get that. And I get the shame that Harry must feel, especially when we get to some of the things here in a second. But it would add interest.
That's what I'm saying. I think that's the fun aspect of it, of looking at these silly little petty things that they did. Maybe not even always petty,
I wouldn't
too.
say small petty. Okay, so first of all, Snape says to start with boxes 1012 to 1056, which is a large number of boxes, by the way. That's a hefty number of boxes. And he says familiar names will add to the interest of your work, which I don't disagree with. So I feel like Snape is right, even if he is needling a little bit. But the first card, or one of the first cards, Harry pulls, is James Potter and Sirius Black, apprehended using an illegal hex upon Bertram Aubrey. Aubrey's head, twice normal size, double detention. So, look, here's the thing about James and Sirius. They are troublemakers similar to the twins. So some of their stuff is innocent pranks. However, they are also gifted wizards. And they, obviously, from what we've seen in Memories with Snape, they like to push their boundaries a little bit.
Yeah. And I get Snape's point with this is trying to be like, look, you're following in your father's footsteps of being a troublemaker, which is not something Harry feels happy about because he is ashamed of what he just did. But I agree with you. I think it'd be... I feel like it would make the 3 hours and 10 minutes go by a lot faster.
I would Also, this is busy work, and I feel like busy work makes time go faster anyway, as long as you're doing it. Even though it's boring, I get that. But with this, I think part of it is not even you're like your father. I think it's more your father is not perfect. You think your father is the best thing ever. He had flaws, and I'm going to point every single one of them out to you.
Every box word.
So, the detention ends up being from 10 a.m. to, weirdly, 1:10 p.m.
He probably got hungry and was like, okay, child, get out of here.
3 hours and 10 minutes long. It also might have been precisely the exact length of the Quidditch game that was going on.
Do you think he had someone spying on the Quidditch match and be like, okay, tell me when it's done,
Probably,
tell me when it's done, we're good.
Probably. He's like, nope, can't be 105. Gotta be 110. But anyway. So Harry returns quickly to the Gryffindor common room once he realizes that the Quidditch match is over, and people will have congregated there to either commiserate in their loss or celebrate their win. And he uses the password Aegis, which roughly translates to, like, how are you in Latin?
Mm-hmm. Like, how's it going?
Yeah. And he's greeted to a roar of celebration in the common room as Gryffindor won.
Yay!
450 to 140.
Honestly, good job, like, team. And especially good job, Ginny, because she was going to be the make or break factor with this.
So, if I'm not mistaken, 450, now Jen can correct me when she listens to this episode, but I'm going to try math. So, 450 minus 150 for the snitch. 300. Is 300 exactly. Right? So, now we're talking about, and each goal is 10 points. So, you're talking about 30 goals they scored? I'm like, Gryffindor bias aside here, and you and I are both Ravenclaws. What's Ravenclaw doing that they let 30 goals in? I'm sorry. What are you doing?
Maybe Dean is just that good of a chaser.
He's not that good. He's not 30 goals good.
No. I think it's Katie Bell.
I
think it's Katie Bell being back.
I don't think Katie Bell is 30 goals good. Not
really?
30. Not 30. 30?
I guess she has been
3-0?
out of practice for a while, but which is also a whole other side tangent. Should she be allowed to be playing when she has so much like? If
she was cleared, she's cleared. From a medical standpoint, if she's cleared, she's cleared. But I would buy it more if Ginny both was the seeker and the chaser.
I mean, maybe she did do a little bit of both.
I don't think she did both because that's a big job. Also, Cho, you're the seeker for Ravenclaw. Where you at? Like, all you gotta do is end it. Like, even if it's 200 to nothing, that's okay. So Gryffindor wins 450 to 140, and they win the championship. Harry is not a complete failure as a captain. However,
we could argue that
his captaincy started off, I thought, fairly well, and then ended on a down note. But anyway. Yeah. Ginny runs towards him, flinging her arms around him, and he kisses her in a crowded Gryffindor common room. Now, this is where people are like,
the room goes quiet.
What's going on here?
I like the reactions, though. He said when they finally broke apart, Dean had broken a glass in his hand.
You're missing one key detail.
What was the one key detail?
After several long moments, maybe a half hour, maybe several sunlit days, they break apart. Several sunlit days. Harry in this chapter is spitting fire, like straight fire.
Do you think his body's doing the conga again?
100%. Those butterflies in his stomach are all in a line doing the conga. Yeah, go ahead.
Well, in any case, yes. Dean has broken a glass in his hand. He looks very unhappy. Romilda Vane looks like she wants to throw something. I love Hermione's face the best because she's just beaming. And Ron looks just dumbfounded. But then he gives a little like head jerk that's like...
A bro nod.
Yep.
He gives a bro nod.
Okay, do it. And then they leave to go make out. I mean, discuss the match. Maybe just a little bit.
They take a long walk, and they might discuss the match.
I don't think they're going to discuss the match.
Don't be putting stuff on them. They might discuss
They need more sunlit days to pass by.
Can we put some stuff on Romilda Vane? Because she's still on this. Does she actually like Harry? Like, legitimately?
I don't know.
If she's like looking like she wants to throw something, she's still on this from Christmas?
Do you think she ever felt guilty about the love potion that got Ron almost killed?
Maybe, but that wouldn't affect her here.
No, but I would think maybe she would be like,
because we all thought
I took it a little too far. Maybe I should back up a bit.
Well, we're all thinking she's just in it to get a piece of Harry's fame. And I'm not saying that that's not a piece of the pie. Mm-hmm. But this reaction makes me wonder, oh, wait, does she actually, like him?
I get the impression it's more like she thinks of herself so highly that for Harry to choose someone over her, it's like a slap to the face. Like, oh, I'm supposed to be the most pretty. He's obviously going to pick me. Like that kind of mindset. And then being like, wait, he didn't want me? Me? How dare he? That's what I'm getting from it.
Maybe. Well, that is where the chapter ends with Ginny and Harry's long walk amongst the Hogwarts grounds.
A crazy emotional ride, though, right? Go from Harry
this
being
nuts,
just complete shock and disappointment to then being like, you get your high, happily ever after kind of sunlit days passing by moment.
I love that description.
Oh, God.
After several long moments, half an hour, or several sunlit days. We hope you listening to this doesn't feel like several sunlit days. We hope it's been a quick non-spoiler and an interesting non-spoiler for you. We will get to our break sound, which unfortunately is Lav Lav, talking about Ron.
Rest in peace, that relationship.
Yeah, that relationship is no more. But we will be back with the spoiler section. Before we get to our break sound, I'd like to acknowledge our friend Andy, who helps us produce our intros and our break sounds. If you want to hear more of Andy's work and like Formula One racing, check out the Outlap F1 podcast. It's your one-stop shop for Formula One news, insights, race previews, and reviews. You can find them wherever you listen to podcasts, and they even have a YouTube page. So check out Andy, Cody, John, James, and Deanna, and join them on the Outlap.
Where is he? Where's my 1-1?
All right, so we are back with the spoiler section of Chapter 24, Sectumsempra. We are going to double back a little bit on our conversation about Snape, because, Elizabeth, you have more to add?
I still think it was a rookie mistake to let Harry go by himself, but I feel like Snape knew already, which, I mean, it's Snape. He could read his mind and see that it was the potions book, and I think Snape wanted to give a little bit of wiggle room so that the Prince book could not come out into the open. And then him have to, acknowledge, this is my handwriting, this is my book, and here's my spell that you used. It all comes back to me, and I don't think he wants that connection anymore.
I do agree that he knows. I mean, he knows that Harry's lying. Mm-hmm. He knows the spell. It's a spell he invented. Mm-hmm. So he knows the spell more intimately than I think anybody else would. Mm-hmm. Thus, how he knows how to counteract it. Mm-hmm. And I believe you did the deep dive on the spell about how it's literally it never heals.
Yeah. It just continues to open cuts on your body until I guess you just die.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So Snape knows this spell very, 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 very well. So he knows all the information he needs. Mm-hmm. And so I don't think he actually needs to see the book to know that Harry got it from somewhere. My question to you would be, how did this book ever leave his possession in the first place? Why isn't it in his library at his place on Spinner's End? Why is it in a cupboard in the potions room?
Or even, why not just in his office? Harry noted that the tensions are still in Snape's office, which are still in the dungeon, even though now he's teaching several floors above. Your office would be the best place to keep your personal books.
Yeah, I don't know why this book is in the open to be discovered anyway.
The only thing I could think would be he was so excited to get away from potions, from teaching potions, that he was just like, We'll just fling all my potion stuff aside. Never again have to teach it.
This strikes me as a personal
It should be.
item.
It's his mother's, so it should be a little bit more personal. And it's valuable information.
Yeah, I don't really know why he left this behind anyway. That's my bigger question on the whole thing. But he very clearly knows where it came from, or where Harry found this spell. Because I can imagine there's only one place that it's even listed anywhere.
Yeah.
So
I just imagine if McGonagall had been the one who found him, she would have been following him all the way up to his bedroom and been like, we're checking your books here and now.
Well, the problem
no talking to me.
The problem with that is McGonagall wouldn't know that it's specifically in a book.
I know. That's
She
the one.
would.
Well, if he said he like read it in a library book, she'd be like, take me to that library book.
Maybe. But I agree with you that she would be able to follow him into the
Gryffindor common room.
But she wouldn't know the true origin of it, where Snape obviously knows where this came from.
Right.
I will say this about the Advanced Potions Making book, though. Snape's version. Would you want to keep that book? Harry hides it away in the Room of Requirement, and he marks the location, which would make you think that he intends to go back for it. Would you go back for it? Would you want that book?
I think I would want it, but I would wait until next year to get it, which would drive me nuts knowing that it's there waiting for me. Maybe I'd get it like before the school year ends, but like right before the school year ends.
Well, this is a spoiler section. That won't go very well.
No, it won't. He's not coming back to school for a long time. I just think that me personally, I would want the book back. I'd probably immediately like black out Sectumsempra as much as possible to try to, or even like cut off that little piece of the page so that I never have to ever see it again, because it would remind me of my guilt every single time and I would hate it. But I feel like it's such a valuable tool for potions that I wouldn't want to just ditch it. It seems like it's taught him a lot.
Two things. One, to your last point, 100%. That's why I would definitely want that book back. It's a really good book on potions, and obviously you have basically, I think you mentioned it at one point, that like the teacher's edition of the book. You have basically like the cheat codes to all of these potions, and they're advanced potions. Yeah, keep the book.
And it helped him save Ron. Like, I mean, I know Hermione said if you had listened to Snape, it would have helped you.
Snape helped him save Ron two different ways. By actually teaching it to him and then by the book. But
it just seems like there's a lot of good things in it. Why would you waste it?
The second note I'll have is I'll challenge you a little bit on the removal of Sectumsempra from the book. Because it's, you said it's a reminder of the guilt and the action that you did. And I'm like, that's exactly why you should keep it. Is a reminder that maybe I shouldn't act so impulsively. Maybe I shouldn't just use things without really looking into it a little bit more. Like, keep it as a reminder of mistakes you've made and how to be better from them.
Oh, I don't think I'd need that to serve as a reminder. I think my memory of the guilt, I mean, I think this would be the kind of thing that would come back to me when it's 3 a.m. and I'm having insomnia, and I'd be like, I remember that time where I almost killed someone on accident. Whoops. Like,
can you say that it was
shame. Can
you say it was on accident when you were firing curses and hexes at them? You were intended to harm.
Yeah, but he still didn't know the full extent of the spell.
And that's your ignorance. And that
you
should be reminded
again,
to not do that.
I don't think you need that reminder. I think the guilt and the embarrassment and all the feelings that went around with it, plus all the detentions to help him remember every single week of what he did, I don't think he necessarily needs it there to remind him.
He doesn't even get all those attentions in. He doesn't get.
I mean, he
doesn't get a dozen.
Some.
He doesn't get a dozen.
I mean, there's not that much of a school year left, which Snape said, you can do them next year. It's like, that's not happening.
In this chapter, we broach May, I believe. So you get May and June.
Yeah. So like 6.
There's like
maybe
8 somewhere in there.
Yeah.
Depending on whatever, but there's still a good chunk, but he doesn't get
not what he deserves.
Yeah.
No.
So I don't know, but I would definitely go back for the book and have it. 100%. I do disagree with Hermione on that front, but anyway. Do you have anything else for the spoiler section?
Oh, the room requirements. There's so many fun things in the room. Just starting off, just a few things that aren't even really, really big. You mentioned there was a skeleton of a 5-legged creature, which led me down a little bit of a deep dive with the Wizarding World. Apparently, that is a quintuped, which is a creature found in northern Scotland that eats humans. And the legend was that there were 2 families feuding with each other. One of the families cursed the other into becoming these 5-legged beasts after a member of their family had been killed. And then once they were turned into these quintupods, they resisted being transfigured back into humans and just completely destroyed the family that they were feuding with. And they just continued to resist ever being transfigured. So there's the idea that like maybe they still have a sense of their humanity in them, but maybe it's just been lost over the centuries. I'm like, well, that's interesting.
So you're telling me that's a skeleton of an actual human?
That has been transfigured, apparently.
Also, if you die, wouldn't you transfigure back? Or would you just be forever that thing?
Well, they're saying
apparently
like...
you're forever that
I
thing.
don't know. They're just saying like the ancestors of these 2 feuding families.
I guess you can transfigure dead things. But still.
I don't know. It was interesting. I got excited about the blood-stained axe. I really, really, really wanted it to be the one that was used to kill nearly Headless Nick, to behead him.
Oh, you went there. Okay.
I found no evidence to support it,
See,
unfortunately.
I went a different route.
I also had the thought of maybe it was what the Bloody Baron used.
I went the Bloody Baron route.
Yeah, and then I looked that up, and apparently the Bloody Baron used a knife, not an axe, so that killed that theory. But I was like, oh, it'd be really cool if it was connected to one of the ghosts.
Bloody Baron seems like an axe guy.
You would think, but
apparently
not. So I was a little upset. I'm going to keep it as my headcanon just because I feel like it's a fun thing to have.
I will say this. I don't think we think of the Bloody Baron often enough.
Mm-hmm.
And when I thought that the Bloody Axe might be attributed to the Bloody Baron, I did some research on the Bloody Baron. And obviously you get, and we'll talk more about it in Deathly Hallows because it pops up in Deathly Hallows, but he had a strong attraction to Helena Ravenclaw.
Yeah.
Rowena's daughter.
Yes.
And you say that and you think it and the time period that we're talking about, but the Bloody Baron attended Hogwarts when the 4 founders were still teaching them.
Like Slytherin taught him.
Yeah. Which is just...
It's crazy.
When you like actually let that click in your head that that's the time period he's from.
And that he's seen basically almost the entire history of Hogwarts.
It makes him a much more interesting, compelling character.
Uh-huh. Especially since he's so mysterious and won't talk to anyone anyway. Like, I don't know. It's a fascinating story, which maybe we'll have to get more into sometime.
Also, I'm sorry. I'm just going down a tangent in my head here. So, do you think Bloody Baron might be the source of some of Voldy and Tom Riddle's information on Slytherin?
Oh, maybe. Probably.
And just the line of Slytherin and the house of Slytherin. And do you think Bloody Baron might have been a part of that historical
I could see it.
History download that Tom Riddle undertook?
I could very much see it. Especially,
and maybe that's why some of the reasons that Bloody Baron is not
as talkative anymore.
He suffers the same regret and remorse over, I helped a mass murderer.
Yeah, same way Helena does.
I cannot do any good in my life or my afterlife.
Speaking of, we see the tarnished tiara, which obviously is Ravenclaw's diadem, which is the one that Helena stole from her mother to make herself seem wiser, and then she had it with her in Albania when Bloody Baron went to go get her, so we know Voldemort found it when he went to Albania, and then put it into that room when he interviewed for the Defense Against Dark Arts job. So it's another one of those fun, like...
It's a rabbit hole that you go down and...
That, but also like that breadcrumbing that she does, like the same way in book 5 when you see the locket in the Black's house, and you're like, it's just right there. Like, you literally just found out what these things are, and you're looking for it, and it's right under your nose, and you have no idea. And you don't until you go back and you read the series, and you're like, oh, shoot. And then the biggest one probably for this book, the Vanishing Cabinet, is there. Dun, dun, dun. almost fully repaired.
That was hinted towards in the last book with Montague getting stuck in it. Mm-hmm. And clearly Filch or whoever was tasked with getting rid of it just threw it in here.
Well, yeah, because it was embarrassing the idea that Peeves just broke it. It was like, I can't fix this. I have no magic. So the idea of, like, knowing once again, like, this is the room Malfoy's been coming to. This is the project he's been working on. It's right there. All you would have to do would be, like, I don't know, kick it in or set it on fire or something. Like.
Here's my question about Malfoy. We know that, obviously, he figured out how to get into the Room of Requirement. Mm-hmm. Number 2, he's found the Vanishing Cabinet. Mm-hmm. How did he find the Vanishing Cabinet specifically? Did he
guess...
Because he knew about the Vanishing Cabinet before it was placed in the Room of Requirement. He knew because Montague was a Slytherin, so he's well-versed in that. Did he go up to the Room of Requirement, and instead of asking for, like, the place where things are hidden or the place to hide something, he asked, where's the Vanishing Cabinet? Or the room that the Vanishing Cabinet is in? Or
maybe
something more specific to that? Because he had the idea.
I mean, Montague said he apparated out of that limbo. I don't know if he apparated out into the Room of Requirement, saw himself surrounded by all the stuff, and was like, I'm out of here. And then maybe Malfoy devised that there's a whole bunch of stuff just hidden in this room because that's what people use the room for.
Normally, I would say Draco just asked for the room to provide him with maybe a place to work or a place to find something helpful or whatever. And it took him to that room, and then he had to search, and then saw the cabinet and was like, oh, that's perfect.
Except he would have had to have this plan put into place at the end of 5th year.
I think
they started doing it over the summer.
Yeah. I think he either knew the cabinet was his answer and sought it out, or he thought, okay, I need a place to work and think to figure out this problem, and it provided this, and he found the cabinet and was like, oh, that's it. Mm-hmm. It's one of the two. Could be a little bit of both. But either way,
it's fun to see it in the room and know, like, everything that's going on that Harry is not aware of.
Do you have anything else for spoilers?
No. I guess just hooray for the happy couple of Ginny and Harry. No.
Yeah, we've been dancing around that for 5.5 books.
Happily ever after.
It's a big, I'm sure we've talked about it in many a spoiler section throughout our episodes, but yeah, now we don't have to anymore. They're a thing. So
They're a thing.
They're a thing. All right, and this is a thing that we are very happy that you all listened to. So thank you for listening. Thank you for giving us a 5-star review on Spotify. Thank you for participating in our polls on Spotify. Please leave a comment either on the episode on Spotify or on Twitter or on Instagram. You can find us at HogwartsAPod. You can also type in at HogwartsAPod on YouTube and find our YouTube channel, which is very, very new, but growing. So that's cool to see. So thank you all if you're listening on YouTube. And with that, we will continue our march toward the end of this book. We got chapter 25 coming up next week. We will see you then. Thanks for listening. Thank you for listening to Hogwarts, a podcast. If you like what you've heard, please click the subscribe button on your preferred podcasting app and follow us on Twitter and Instagram at HogwartsAPod.